In this section, we are going to learn about media queries. And media queries allow us to, right, as we show our web page on different devices, those different devices will have different screen sizes, different resolutions, and the viewport, the browser window through which somebody's looking at your web page, which is known as the viewport, right? So viewport's just like the browser window, because that browser window could be sized to a different size as a screen. It could just be part of the screen. So as the size of the viewport, the browser window changes for whatever size viewport somebody's looking at your web page. We want that web page to look good. And so we can use media queries to change the layout of our web page under certain conditions. If the screen size is really small, if it's mobile, then we're going to apply this CSS and this formatting. If it's a little bit bigger, if it's like a tablet, then we're going to apply this other CSS and have it formatted this way. And if it's a desktop, right, like if it's this size or this size or this size, at different sizes of viewport, different viewport sizes, right, the browser window, depending upon the size of the browser window, we could apply different CSS formatting. So that's what a media query is. And some students freak out when we talk about media queries. They're like, oh my God, query, because query can carry a lot of baggage and weight, like just that word, that term query, because in computer science, query is often associated with querying a database, and there are like fat books written on how to query databases and for all kinds of different databases, and there are entire classes in like how to create queries for databases. So some students, like if they've been exposed to that, they get to media queries and they're like, dear Lord. But all here, media queries here are easy. So rest assured, it's not a big deal. Super easy media queries. Medium easy. Yeah, not too bad at all. So here are some examples of layouts we've already seen. These are created with Flexbox and media queries. So we have one layout right there, and then we hit a breakpoint. So this is known as a breakpoint, where our layout breaks from one layout to another. That's a breakpoint. We hit a breakpoint and our layout changes, right? So that's how we do media queries, and that's what they do. And all we're doing is we're applying different CSS there. That's it. So the HTML stayed the same. And that's the beauty of a separation of concerns, because we could have the same HTML and then we could just apply different formatting. Whereas if it was all blended together, we'd have to have different files and have redundancy in our code. And that would violate the principle of do not repeat yourself dry. And then when we wanted to change, like if it was all blended together, when we wanted to change like some of the HTML, and we had like 4 files for 4 different layouts, we'd have to change it in 4 places, and that would eventually lead to things being completely screwed up and mistakes and oversights. So this principle of dry, do not repeat yourself in programming, is you write something once. Write once, use many times. And so our HTML can be written once because it's separated, and then we could write our formatting for different situations. Each of those situations would be written once, right? And cool. No multiple codes. So those other examples, which we already saw, just to kind of view them again, and we're going to have a section where we learn how to work with these examples here, right, how to create them. But part of creating them is understanding Flexbox, which we just figured out in the last section. And the other part of creating them is understanding media queries, which we're figuring out in this section. And then, of course, my favorite, I love this menu. I love it. All right, so that's media queries, and I wrote up a little kind of section overview, and I hope this is useful to you, because this document takes like a lot of effort, and I think it would be useful. 160 pages so far, that's nuts, because you could kind of reference it and search it and control F through it and search for, right, whatever you want to define, and go back up to my section overview. And that will help you, refine things if you need to review them. So when we put together a media query, what we're going to learn in this section is we're going to have media queries, and media queries are made up of a media type and an expression. The media type is optional. This is what the documentation says. And you can have 0 or more expressions, which to me sounds a whole hell of a lot like optional, but we'll see what media type and expressions are. And well, we're going to see that now. So we're going to learn what those are in this section and how to use them. So media types, we could say, hey, just apply this formatting when it's being shown on the screen. Hey, just apply this formatting when it's being shown in print. So if you go to some websites and you say, I want to print this, like recipe websites in New York Times or something, the way it looks on the page on the website, and then you go to print it, they strip out a lot of stuff because they don't want to burn up your ink toner. They want it to look good on the printed page. They want it to be readable for you. And so they have formatting just for print, and it completely changes the way that HTML is formatted. So we're going to learn about media types and expressions like min width and max width, and how different widths we could apply different formatting. And then we've already kind of learned what the viewport is, but we're going to hit that again. I'll give you that formal breakdown of the definition or whatever, my definition, so you could read it. And then we learned what breakpoints are. So that's what's common in this section. There are some hands-on examples, I believe. Flexbox. Yes, great. We have media query hands-on exercises. So you'll be able to do those, and we got our taco shop and all that stuff. It's cool. It's going to be good. I just woke up. Let's get started.